You think you know Remembrance Day, right? A solemn day to honor fallen soldiers. But what if there's another layer to it? In this explainer, we're diving into a pretty wild interpretation from one particular source that claims this public ceremony is actually a hidden and incredibly complex ritual.
And look, this source doesn't pull any punches. Right out of the gate, it makes this absolutely jaw-dropping claim. It says the whole thing is, and I quote, a massive global act of profane magic, a prayer for the end of the world. Whoa, that is a heavy statement. So our job here is to unpack exactly how they even get to that conclusion. Let's dig in.
Okay, so before we go too far down the rabbit hole, we have to start on solid ground, right? We've got to look at what we all see, the public face of the ceremony. So let's start there. You know the scene. Every year, it's this incredibly solemn day. It's all about honoring the immense sacrifice of soldiers who died in war. It's a really powerful moment, full of reflection, respect, gratitude. That's the meaning we all know and understand. But according to the source we're looking at, that's barely scratching the surface. It's only half the story. And this is where things take a very sharp turn. The whole argument here is that the ceremony we see isn't what it seems. It's actually a cipher, a coded message. Every single part of it, every symbol, is said to have a second, hidden meaning. So the big question is, how on earth does this code supposedly work? So the source basically lays out this idea of two completely different realities happening at the same time. On one side, you've got the public meaning, which they say is for the pawns. And yeah, that's supposed to be us, the general public, thinking we're just part of a day of honor. But then there's the hidden, esoteric meaning. This one is for the players, some kind of secret elite who allegedly know it's a magical prayer for global change. This idea, this split between what's seen and what's really happening, is totally central to their whole argument. So, if it's a code, how do we crack it? Well, according to this source, you have to break down the key symbols one by one. It's kind of like being a detective. So, let's start by looking at the physical objects at the very heart of the ceremony. All right, first up, the monument, like the cenotaph. In this reading, it's not just a memorial. The word monument itself is seen as a kind of word puzzle, a cipher for monarch. See it? Monument, monarch. So suddenly, that empty tomb isn't just a symbol of loss, it becomes a placeholder, a throne for a sleeping god or a sleeping king who's just waiting to be woken up. Okay, next we have maybe the most famous symbol of all, right? The poppy. We all know it's for remembrance, but in this interpretation, nope. It's given this really grand title, the flower of the solar sleep, and its hidden meaning is supposedly split into two very specific parts. So here's how they break it down. First, you've got the color, red. That gets linked directly to the sun. Simple enough? But then there's the substance. The poppy is the source of opium, right? So that becomes the ultimate symbol of sleep. You put those two ideas together, and suddenly, wearing a poppy isn't just about remembrance anymore. It's a double whammy. You're invoking the sun and symbolizing a state of deep, deep sleep. And this deconstruction thing doesn't stop with objects. They apply the exact same logic to the word soldier. They literally split it in two. You get sol, which is Latin for the sun, and doer, as in one who dies. Put them together, and you get one who dies for the sun. So in this view, the soldiers we honor are reframed as something else entirely. They're seen as sacrifices to a solar power in some kind of grand cosmic game. Okay, let's just recap where we are. We've got a monument that's secretly for a sleeping king, a flower that represents solar sleep, and soldiers who are reframed as sacrifices to the sun. It's a lot, I know. But now we get to the real climax of this whole argument, the supposed decoding of the most famous motto of the entire day. Lest we forget. I mean, that phrase is everything to Remembrance Day. It's a plea, a promise to never forget the past. But this source, it claims that's not what it means at all. It argues it's actually a two-part command, like a spell or an incantation, hidden right there in plain sight. Okay, so let's break this down. First word, lest. They split it into lay and stet. Now, in this symbolic system, lay is said to mean a downward motion, like to lower something. Instead, that's supposed to be shorthand for stone monarch. Put it together, and the hidden command in lest becomes bring down the stone monarch. And then there's the second word, forget. This gets decoded as Thorget. Yeah, like the Norse god. In this context,
Thor is seen as a force of destruction, a wrecking ball, and get is just a simple command, to go get, to unleash. So the second part of this hidden prayer is supposedly unleash Thor. So we've gone through the monument, the poppy, the soldiers, and now the motto. We've decoded all the pieces according to this one source. So what happens when you put it all back together? Well, this is where the whole thing comes to a head. The conclusion is that the entire ceremony is an inversion, a complete flip of its public meaning.
And here's the bottom line, the central claim of this entire analysis. What looks to all of us like a public act of honor is, in this esoteric reading, actually a hidden prayer for apocalyptic change. A ceremony that we think is about remembering the past is twisted or inverted into a call to bring down the old order and unleash chaos.
So to put it all together, the source basically lays it out as a clear 5-step ritual. Step 1, you gather at the monument, which is really for the sleeping monarch. Step 2, you wear the poppy of solar sleep. Step 3, you invoke the soldiers, the sacrifices to the sun. And then the grand finale, the 2-part command. You say lest to bring down the monarch, and you say forget to unleash Thor.
And that's the whole argument laid out. Well, it's a lot to take in, for sure. This source presents a really detailed, though obviously very unconventional, take on a tradition we all think we know. It reframes every symbol, every word, to build this incredible case. And it really just leaves us with one final, pretty unsettling question to chew on. Is Remembrance Day what it appears to be, a solemn day of honor? Or could it be what this interpretation claims, a hidden prayer for apocalypse?